So here are the questions. Why am I not excited by this video? Why is the announcement of the move to Unreal 5 not getting me as hyped as the rest of the community? Why does it feel like people without a platform are the only ones who are kind of seeing it the way I am? These are the questions I'm going to answer here and more. Hi, I'm City Skull, and this is my video on the absolute state of Halo post the New Dawn video. So here we are in the aftermath of this groundbreaking and exciting new information that I felt I had to make a video on, considering I haven't seen anyone else talk about it in the way that I will. The truth behind 343 or Halo Studios' New Dawn video seems to have eluded all of the YouTuber community. The Halo YouTuber community, that is. At least all the ones who I've watched so far, and this, I believe, is the reason why so many have this unfounded enthusiasm for Halo's future. So why am I not excited by this video? Well, because it simply wasn't made for us, the community. I mean, you don't just make a trailer talking about all the things Unreal 5 can do when it's not your proprietary engine. It wasn't developed for Halo specifically, and yet they're boasting about how amazing it will be for Halo specifically. Seems odd, doesn't it? Why are we talking about an industry standard engine like it's the best thing since sliced bread, when there have been countless tech demos over the years showcasing exactly what you're talking about here? Or when you said all this before in regards to the Slipspace engine. You know, the one that Microsoft spent $500 million developing for Halo specifically? Well, there's only one answer to that, and it's the fact that this isn't a trailer. This isn't a roadmap for what the fans can expect. It's a fucking help wanted advertisement. You see, the Slipspace engine has a notorious reputation amongst the industry now as being hard to learn and hard to work with. It's been widely reported on enough that we have a good baseline for the average experience at 343, and it seems to take the average developer a whopping 6 months just to learn the workings of the Slipspace engine. And when Microsoft and 343's MO is to hire contract developers for year-long terms, maybe a little longer, it gets to be pretty simple math. These contract devs are spending about half their contract time just learning the engine, let alone adding some meaningful contributions to the project. Their proprietary engine is clearly more than capable of building a perfect Halo game, but as we've come to learn, their mismanagement and mishandling of staff and resources has led to a cataclysmic failure of a mainline Halo title. And in their infinite wisdom, they decide not to hire proper permanent staff in hopes of giving them time to get well adjusted to their engine and be able to produce great games. No, instead, we are going to continue just as we have with year-long contracts, and instead we're just going to change up the engine entirely. Because that was clearly their biggest problem. The engine. A quick editor's note here. I acknowledge that the Slipspace engine may very well be a huge problem, but it's laughable to say it's their biggest one. So what is their solution? Well, there's this technological marvel of a developer tool called Unreal 5. And if 343 swaps to this engine for development of future titles, then they can hire countless amounts of contract workers to come in and get cracking almost immediately because UE5 has become an industry standard across the board. More developers throughout the industry have had experience with or have worked exclusively with UE5 system and can more quickly adapt their knowledge and skill set for use in developing games in the Halo universe. You don't need people who are passionate about the game they're developing anymore, it seems. You just need Joe Schmo to come in and put his 5 years of UE experience into the mix and make something in an hour or two. It doesn't matter if he even likes the game. Hell, he could even be anti-gun and still work in a fucking FPS games, for Christ's sake. I mean, what the fuck, 343? What is with this guy? I don't care if you love guns or hate guns, but whatever your opinion, at least stick to your principles. I mean, this dude is clueless as hell. Setting this clown aside, though, it seems they have no interest in any of the workers they currently have staying on to see Halo Infinite live up to its potential. This is extremely problematic to me for a number of reasons, not least among them being that 343 has handled Halo Infinite in a way that has made me feel like a Star Citizen player. You know, someone who has deluded themselves into believing that this would one day be a full game, and it wasn't just a fucking scam to get me to pay money for something that is just an unobtainable dream. Regrettably, I have spent money in this game, because it wasn't clear to me at the time that this was just a crowdfunding campaign. I, like many others, thought that this was going to be a long-lived, live service experience, and while I was under no presumption that it would actually make it to the full 10 years that they promised, as no game that has ever promised 10 years has, I thought that I would at least get a few years of a complete game that I can show off my collection of store-bought purchases. that there would be something else added to the story, and perhaps find a way to tie it into the multiplayer. That was a goal for them at the start, seeing as they wanted to tell a story featuring our Spartans for multiplayer in their narrative-driven cutscenes at the start of each season. But instead, myself, and anyone else who has spent money on this game, are left with the gut-wrenching realization that it was all a waste. That 343 was just going to cut their ties to this game and change the name of their studio in an effort to disassociate themselves from the brilliant scam that they played on us. And you know, in this situation, they kind of remind me of someone else, but I can't quite put my finger on... Oh wait, that's right, the fucking devs of the day before. They kept convincing us so long that this was a real game, and that everything was going to come together, and all the suffering and lies was going to be worth it in the end. What a load of horseshit, man. I mean, honestly, this is ridiculous. We hoped that Halo Infinite would be complete, and it would continue receiving support for a while longer, but instead, all the ideas they had have been scrapped or put on reserve for other investments. To its credit, Halo Infinite is nearly a night and day difference between launch and now, but yet it's not enough. Which is odd, because I remember when the game first came out, I thought people were just being obscenely greedy with their demands from 343. Demanding so much more content than any Halo has ever had and launched with. And I thought, geez, relax guys. But now I think, fuck it, they were right all along. We were missing so many things at launch, and while I wasn't happy about having to wait for them to be added, I was okay with it because eventually they would be. Or at least I thought they would be. And every time this has happened to any game in the past, be it Halo or otherwise, everyone has just kind of forgotten about certain features not being present at the launch of the game. But 343 continued to underdeliver, not even able to keep up with the drastically declining expectations of the community, which these expectations got embarrassingly low at one point. But the less and less expectations you have, the more your apathy or possibly resentment grows. And a lot of my resentment towards 343 is actually pretty new. You see, Halo is the game that changed my life. Halo 2 was the first FPS I ever played. I saw my cousin playing it back in 2005 and it was love at first sight. At the time, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen, and I would go on to talk about it non-stop for years to come. I loved it even through all the years of being outcasted and looked down upon by others for my love of this franchise. Others would bully and ridicule, saying I should be playing Madden or COD because, and I quote, aliens are gay.
Tell him about how his dad got to third base with you. Caboose!
Bungie had created something so visceral and engaging that it brought me hours upon hours of joy. And when 343 stepped in, I wasn't the biggest fan. When Halos 4 and 5 came out, I had pretty much the same opinions on those games as the general consensus of the community. I didn't hate 343 then because in my eyes, they stepped up to continue the legacy of a franchise that had been abandoned like an unloved child left at the fire station by Bungie. You see, Bungie left Halo behind to go work on their dream game, and to fulfill their wishes? I don't know what you expected me to say there. But now we see that Destiny is falling apart too. And it wasn't until recently that a Twitter user with some curious insider knowledge started blasting out reports of what was behind 343's curtain, and my god, it was shocking. From the reports of horrible leadership, working conditions, mismanagement, etc., to the heinous act of denying former Bungie developers from returning to the Halo series that, arguably, never should have left, and not even doing so in a professional way of saying like, I'm sorry, but we don't have want or need of your talents here. We're full up. But instead, they deliberately and disgracefully waste their time by making them wait in the parking lot for up to an hour before telling them they can't even get a fucking meeting. That is unfucking believable behavior. Deplorable at best and criminal at worst. According to that Twitter user, and I should note that I am paraphrasing here, and I also haven't been able to confirm any of this with 100% accuracy, but 343's leadership had set forth a motto of wanting to do away with anything relating to the identity of Bungie's era of Halo. And this was the motto from the beginning, hence why Halos 4 and 5 were so drastically different from anything Bungie related. But now they just want to sweep all that under the rug and hope that we don't ask any questions about the obvious mountain of shit underneath it. Because of their treatment towards the Bungie devs, and the ridiculous mission statement that they've had in place for over a decade, I finally joined the side of pure 343 hate. What they've done is inexcusable, And if they want to be in our good graces, then they need to do some serious repair work. Not just drop the game that has a crystal clear potential of being the greatest Halo game that we've ever had and move on like nothing ever happened. We have invested our time, and a lot of us our money, into something that could and should be better. But as it stands, it seems we will never see a return on what we wasted. The price for the failure of Halo Infinite won't be paid by just Microsoft and 343, but by us as well. In my eyes, giving up on this game and moving forward is theft. Honestly, I feel like 343 should be put on trial for all they've done. But I'm just being facetious here, and I don't think that will ever happen. And if it did, it would tear the divide between the fans and the studio that much more, with the studio likely claiming, "We've done nothing legally wrong." But morally wrong is another thing entirely. And while the courts can't hold you accountable for that, we certainly can. Now I want to be clear here, I have no problem with Halo Studios. That's a bit on the nose, isn't it? But I have no problem with them switching to Unreal 5 if it truly will help them get their feet out in front of them and start doing shit properly. What I have a problem with is the disingenuous tone and information that they put forward in this video. They are wanting to lay all the blame at the feet of their faulty engine instead of the gross incompetence of their leadership and hired help. We all know that the leadership positions have been shaken up drastically at the top, but we have yet to see anything positive come from it. Halo Infinite still hasn't lived up to the promise of the premise, and they are acting like there is no way that it ever could. That it would be impossible for them to retroactively fix this game and make it not just something complete, but something more than we ever imagined. And given all the problems we've heard about behind the scenes, we might be inclined to believe them. That it really is impossible. Except there's one glaring problem with that. They've already proven that it is possible with Halo MC-fucking-C. This game was a disaster at launch, but since then they've come back, and not only did they fix this game, they made it much, much more than it ever was before. So much content was added to these ancient gems, and it brought them back to life in a way that was better than ever. And we're meant to believe that they just can't do this for Infinite. I don't think so. But aside from all of this, there's still something wrong about this tech demo / graphics showcase, as if graphics were the main thing we cared about with Halo.
The original Halo franchise was a graphics showcase. It was best in class. That's what Halo was when it first was released, and that's what Halo needs to be again.
Oh, well, that's 0 for 2 there, 343, isn't it? As in what their main focus is for these games.
We're a very competitive game. That's our DNA. That's who we are. Right? You go back all the way to the very first Halo, right? Multiplayer. I mean, it is a highly competitive game.
Yikes. We just can't seem to figure it out, can we? If only the community has been screaming the same thing for years now. Oh well, though. I guess for the next installment, it will be a really pretty piece of shit. Then, of course, is the fact that we're forgetting that everything in this video is just pre-renderings. The actual games will most likely not look this good upon release, just like all of Ubisoft's games. At the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that could be positives for the future of Halo. Only time will tell, but all of, or most of, anyways, these other Halo YouTubers seem to be hopping right on the Halo Studios bandwagon as fast as they can, and it just doesn't feel right to me. Something about their collective responses has alarm bells ringing in my head like crazy, and I can't shut them off. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts down below, however, and let me know if I'm just rambling like a paranoid abuse victim of 343. But that's all I've got for you today, though, folks. I know this is very different from my usual content, but I felt I just had to say something on this because no one that I saw was saying it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and you can let me know by doing the usual thing down below. And I'll see you guys next time, but first, you should always remember, to light the fire that burns down the house, you first need a guilty spark. Alright guys, see ya.